Hi guys, we're on to video 1.4. So we're solving absolute value equations with two absolute values, and we're learning about more special solutions. So we're just going to start with our good old one absolute value equation. Okay. Quick review of absolute value. So if you have any number in absolute value, like -4, the absolute value of that is just 4. The absolute value of a positive number like 4 is the same number 4. This is all about distance and lengths. So if you have a 0 here and -4 and 4 on either side, both are just 4 units from 0. So it's like time, or it's like length, and we can never measure those as negatives. You're never going to say that the room is -20 feet by -12 feet. You're never going to say that we have a -2 minutes left. That just means you should have left 2 minutes ago. So the absolute value just turns it into like a length type. So -4 becomes +4. When we're solving an equation with absolute value, we have to solve two different equations. So our first one is going to have that positive answer, x minus 4 equals 6. The other one is going to have a negative solution. Because if we end up taking the absolute value of -6, it also equals 6, so we have to split it up and we have to do two equations to solve. So on the left, we're just going to add 4. We're going to get x equals 10, and on the right, we're going to add 4. We're going to get x equals -2. And we're going to graph it by putting a dot on -2 and on 10. Now, because x minus 4 absolute value equals 6 is set up in this generic equation, like there's just the absolute value bars, there's not a bunch of operations added on the outside, you know that from 4, -2 is 6 units away, and 10 is also 6 units away. The important part to remember is that you have to do two different equations. So for 1, 2, and 3, you're going to set up x equals -10, x equals 10. For number 2, you'll do x minus 1 equals 4, and x minus 1 equals -4. And so on. Move on to the next one. So this is what I was talking about, these extra operations outside of the absolute value. So in this case, it's -10. So what you have to do is you have to get rid of that -10 first. All we want is absolute value on one side and a number on the right side. So we're going to do +10. Plus 10. Our new equation is 3x plus 9 equals 6. So from here, we still have to do that first and second equation. 3x plus 9. 3x plus 9 equals 6. And what is our other one going to look like? 3x plus 9 equals -6. So we're going to subtract 9. We're left with 3x equals -3. We're going to isolate that x, so we're dividing by, we're dividing by our +3. And x equals -1. On our other equation, We're going to subtract 9 again on both sides. We'll get 3x equals negative 15. 3 divided by 3, and then negative 15 divided by 3. Our x equals negative 5. And if we were to graph that, we would just put our points on negative 1 and negative 5. Now this time you can notice that unlike the previous, the first one, how this 4 was the middle ground. For the example we just did, negative 4 is not the middle ground. That's because of this extra operation in this 3. So for 4 and 5, we are going to remember these extra operations and move those over first. How do you move those over? Your inverses. Here's our first word problem. In a cheerleading competition, the minimum length of a routine is 4 minutes. The maximum is 5 minutes. Write an absolute value equation that represents the minimum and maximum lengths. So basically, we have this maximum and minimum length of time, ranging from 4 minutes to 5 minutes. So we're going to set up our absolute value equation with an x, a minus. So we have c here. B that we have to find, and c that we have to find. So this c should be so this c is the midpoint between 4 and 5. So 4 and 5 is 1 unit away, so half of the way is 4.5. So we have x minus b equals 4.5. And what is b? Well, b is just telling us this distance between 4 and 4.5 and 4.5 and 5, which is just 0.5. So our equation is the absolute value of x minus 0.5 equals 4.5. Okay, I'm going to relabel this for your reference. This is the midpoint between max and min. This is the distance from midpoint to max, or midpoint to min. So for your practice example, you have a minimum of 16 lines and a maximum of 32 lines. You just have to remember that we need to find B and C, where C is the midpoint and B is the distance between the ends and the midpoint. We're on to 12. We're going to try to get through these quickly. This is a lengthy video this time. So we have 3x minus 4 equals x. So what we're going to do is we're still going to have two equations to check. First one, we'll have 3x minus 4 equals positive x. And then we'll have 3x minus 4 equals negative x. So we're just going to subtract x, and we'll get 2x minus 4 equals 0. You are going to add 4 to both sides. We'll get 2x equals 4. Our last step is just to divide by 2. X equals 2. On the other side, we're going to add 4. Well, let's stick in the same order. Let's add x. So now we have 4x minus 4 equals 0. Then we're going to add 4. We'll end up with 4x equals 4. If we divide by 4, we get that x equals 1. So for A, x equals 1 and 2. And you guys can always check those by just plugging them back into the equation. So we use 1, 3 times 1 is 3, 3 minus 4 is negative 1. The absolute value of negative 1 equals the absolute value of 1, which is just 1. Alright, I have to erase this to make some. So I had to erase everything, and we're going to move on to example B. So we're still going to have two different equations that we need to work on. We have 4x minus 10 equals 2 times the positive version of 3x plus 1. Those are just parentheses. And then we're going to have a second equation where it's 4x minus 10 equals 2 times the negative version of 3x plus 1. So the negative is just negative 3x minus 1. You just multiply it all by negative 1 or just switch your signs. So we're back on the left. We're going to just distribute our 2 first. We'll get 4x minus 10 equals 2 times 3x gives us 6x plus 2 times that 1, which will just give us 2. Now we just solve. I'm going to move my 4x over by subtracting because I like to keep my numbers positive. So we have negative 10 equals positive 2x plus 2. Next we're just subtracting 2. And then we'll get, I'll just keep writing it down here, negative 12 equals 2x. And then we're just dividing by 2. We'll get negative 6 equals x. And now we're on to our other side. So again, you always have to distribute and simplify first. So we're left with 4x minus 10 equals negative, let me write that, 4x minus 10 equals negative 6x minus 2. I'm going to add 6x to both sides. We'll get 10x minus 10 equal negative 2. Then I'm going to add 10 and add 10. We'll get 10x equals 8. Then we're just dividing by 10, x equals 4/5. And your calculator can also tell you that that is just 0.8. Both answers work. So we have x equals -6 and we have x equals 4/5. Now, just how we learned about infinite solutions before, we're going to learn about extraneous solutions. Extraneous solutions have an apparent solution and it does not satisfy the original equation. So that just means after you do all of this work to get your 2x equals, your two statements, one of them you're going to plug it in and it's not going to give you the right answer. So it's just putting in a little work and then checking to see if it's right. So we have 2x plus 12 equals 4x. We're going to do 2x plus 12 equals 4x. Then our second equation is 2x plus 12 equals -4x. I'm going to subtract my 2x, get 12 equals 2x, divide by 2, x equals 6. Then on the right, I'm going to add 4x and add 4x to get 6x plus 12 equals 0. Then I'm just subtracting 12 to isolate the variable. We get 6x equals -12. We're left to divide by 6. X equals -2. So here's where the checking comes in. We're going to have to check. Does 2 times 6 plus 12 equal 4 times 6? Well, 2 times 6 is 12. 12 plus 12 is 24. The absolute value of 24 is 24. And 4 times 6 is in fact 24. Our first answer is good. Now we're going to check our second answer. I'm just going to check that right next door here. So we'll have 2 times -2 plus 12 equals 4 times -2. We do 2 times -2, that's -4. -4 plus 12 gives us 8. Absolute value of 8 is 8. So that equals 4 times -2, which is -6. 8 does not equal -6. So this is our extraneous solution. So that's the apparent solution that we did all this work for just to realize that it does not work. So in this case, x only equals 6. So you guys practice 9 and 10. And make sure that you check your solutions. That's the only way you'll know if it's extraneous or not. All right, this was a longer video, but there's a lot to cover.